Well, friends, this upcoming week, there's another special celebratory day in the Jewish community. The week that passed, we observed Yom HaShoah, the day that remembers the survivors and the victims of the Shoah, of the Holocaust. This coming week, we will have Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Memorial Day. And Israel's Memorial Day is immediately before Israeli Independence Day, which I think has so many things that we can learn about, to recognize how people have given everything that they had for something of value, for freedom and for democracy. You know, sometimes I struggle with our Memorial Day because everybody just goes for a sale and we forget what's really most important about why we have it in the first place. But for Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, this is 70 years. And it's kind of an incredible thing. I find it to be an incredible thing. And I know that when I talk about something like this out loud in the city of Boulder, people will kind of put up one eyebrow and will wonder, where is he going with this? And is this really okay to talk about out loud? That we can talk about Israel. And yeah, I want to talk about Israel because despite the challenges, and we'll talk about some of that, there's amazing things that happen. You have to understand, I was raised as a Zionist, and I'm still a Zionist. And when I talk about what Zionism is for me, it's about being part of a national renewal movement of the Jewish people that's connecting people all around the world, and Israel is going to be the center place for that. And I grew up in a Reformed Jewish home, an observant Reformed Jewish home, whatever that means. And it was filled with Israeli art and music and coin collections from the state of Israel and J&F pushkas, you know, the little blue and white boxes. And after many Shabbat dinners, we would move our living room furniture, which I thought was like making the room huge, but it was really like the size of this table. And we would move this furniture and we put on records. Do you remember records? For the kids, you can explain what they are later. They play on both sides. And we put on these records of Israeli folk dance music, and we would do Israeli folk dancing in my living room. That's where I grew up. I didn't know about Alice in Wonderland, but I did know about Entebbe. I didn't know about some of the things going out there, but I had a sense that the Prime Minister of Israel was just as important as the President of the United States. I knew that what happened at Camp David in the 70s was magnificent to try and bring peace to a people and to a country that was tired of fighting. And my lullabies were Israeli peace songs. Ani mavtiach lach, I promise you, says the song, that this is going to be the last of all of the wars. That was my lullabies. I've always had a connection, but as a kid, I knew that my connection was supposed to be that Israel was refuge and homeland, but those were terms that weren't really helpful for me as a kid. I didn't really understand what it was, Israel as a nation, a people that included Israelis and Jews and folks who weren't Jewish, who were citizens of the state of Israel, which, by the way, is 20% of the population. But I always had this sense of pride and connection to the state of Israel. Its people were committed and its army was strong and had faced a threatened existence and yet persevered. And it was not supposed to be. It was not supposed to be a state like every other state. I know some of the early Zionists said, we will be like every other country, but that's never what I wanted. It's not what my parents wanted. They wanted it to be different. That there was going to be another kind of a standard of how do you engage others in the world and how do you engage others inside of the country. The ideas of pioneering the land and egalitarianism and purity of arms were inspirational for me. And over the years, I developed a relationship with Israel and with Israelis that was my own. That wasn't my parents', and it wasn't based on the big posters in the religious school of fighter pilots or people on the beaches. It was real people, real lives, real nuance. And I've been pretty comfortable with my feelings about Israel, drawing from this Reformed Jewish identity and a value system to consider myself a partner in the building of Israel. That, I think, is a Zionist expression, to be a partner in the building of Israel. And these days, Israel doesn't need more roads and playgrounds. Their taxpayers can take care of that. Israel needs partners to continue innovation, and it needs partners to advance democracy and the rule of law. The core ideas of Zionism, as I see it, have always been about my commitments and connections to God and democracy and pluralism, places where I've worked to try and build a better future. I've developed an idea about Israel that I want to share with you, that Israel is the embodiment of hope. As a Jewish and a democratic state, that it is the embodiment, it's true, of hope. It's all good. And I got this idea from a rabbi named Abraham Joshua Heschel. It was a book that I recommend to everybody. It's called Israel, an Echo of Eternity. And this is what he says. What is holy about the Holy Land? It is not because its space is filled with frozen echoes of a voice heard in the past. Eretz Yisrael is a prelude, an anticipation. The Holy Land is regarded as a place where the divine plan of history can unfold its pristine and unique meaning. The land of Israel has been sanctified by the words of the prophets, by the suffering of a whole people, by the tears and prayers of thousands of years, by the labor and dedication of pioneers. Such sanctity is precious to God, vital to the people, a light within history. The state of Israel is not only a place of refuge for the survivors of the Holocaust, but also a tabernacle for the rebirth of faith and justice, for the renewal of souls, for the cultivation of knowledge of the words of the divine. By the power and the promise of prophetic visions we inhabit in the land, but faithfulness to God and Torah we continue to survive. This is a part of our exaltation, to witness the resurrection of the land of the Bible, a land that was dead for nearly 2,000 years is now a land that sings. A land that sings because of renewal and justice and opportunity. And today you would say Startup Nation and cherry tomatoes and parts that go into cell phones. All of that is true and amazing and dynamic. So for me, as a Reformed Jew committed to an Israel that is pluralistic and democratic and Jewish, that makes room for all of its citizens, is something that is so unique and powerful that we need to be a partner in continuing its building. And yet, we remain committed to Israel the way I remain committed, and I love this country, and we have tsuris too. There's challenges. And so when recently, last 6 weeks ago or so, we took 21 of our friends from our synagogue and we went to Israel for a tour. And we saw some of the important sites, and that was really fantastic. But there were other things that we did as well to try and share the nuance. We went in the morning on Rosh Chodesh to see Women of the Wall. Women of the Wall is an organization that has been advocating for equality at the Kotel, at the Western Wall. And one of the amazing things was bringing our folks there and them being so moved. And when I first brought them there, I was regretting my decision. Because some of the Haredi folks and the ultra-Orthodox who are yelling and challenging our existence there, and the women who are praying in the women's section there, the hostility that we saw, it broke my heart so deeply. I was like, I can't believe I brought my folks there. And yet they found it to be powerful and compelling. And they went and they prayed as loud as they could. It still wasn't as loud as the men who were howling at them. And then when everything was over, they went back for their own quiet time. So I felt a little bit better. Why was this rabbi bringing his congregants to a place where you saw hardship and sorrow and people fighting who are supposed to be the same people? Why would I do that? We met with Professor Dalia Fadila, president of the College of Technology and Science in Baqa al-Gharbia, which is an Arab-Israeli town. This woman opens up her conversation with us and saying, I don't know to tell you who I am to you. I can tell you I'm a woman. I can tell you I'm an Israeli. I can tell you I'm a Palestinian, or I'm an Arab Israeli. How complicated. What a life. And this woman becomes a president of a college that is serving the Arab Israeli sector, the Palestinian Israeli sector. Jews aren't really attending this college. And in this traditional society, how many challenges is she facing? How many people are disrupting her leadership? And here she is meeting with folks from a synagogue in Boulder, saying that peace is going to come through education. Incredible, nuanced. We met with Huda. Huda is a Bedouin woman who has organized an empowerment program, a women's empowerment program within the Bedouin community. Now, parts of the Bedouin community, for a woman to stand up and step out of what is permitted is kind of dangerous. It's a very traditional, pre-modern, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way, kind of existence. And Huda said, I'm very traditional on the outside because she was all covered and wore this Bedouin dress, and on the inside I'm very liberal. That's what she says to the folks of Boulder. And we were kind of amazed by her courage and her willingness to speak a truth and her willingness to risk. And where did she learn all of this? Is from her father. To be her own woman in a place where women are often silenced. And we went to Nachal Oz, a kibbutz that's in the news a little bit these days because it's right on the Gaza border, 800 meters from where people are protesting today. And along our way in talking about what's going on with Gaza before any of these things are happening, people were asking, what are these little colorful painted Winnie the Pooh decorations on these little huts? They're not really huts. What are they, for the kids to play? Well, they're shelters. They're bomb shelters. Because if you live in Nachal Oz, you have about 7 seconds to get to safety if there's a rocket that comes from Gaza. I'm trying to tell you that there are challenging truths and that nobody is really all right and all wrong. And when we see things on the headlines, we're not really knowing the facts on the ground or how people are living with real challenges. So on the 70th anniversary of Israel that's coming up this week, what do I want to tell you? I want to tell you to be a partner, to learn, to go, to visit, send your kids. The Israel Study Tour is an amazing opportunity to go and spend real time in Israel. And if we kids can't do it for so many weeks with either NIFTY or with IST, then when they're young adults in college, they can go on Birthright Israel. An amazing free trip, but it's only 10 days. It's only 10 days. Now the Jewish community is subsidizing interfaith couples who are new in their relationships on a program called Honeymoon Israel. It's a great idea. One of the parts of the couple, there's an age bracket, by the way. Now some of you are starting to look at me and I see what's going on here. There's an age bracket, so if you're a young adult and one of the partners is not Jewish, you can have a highly subsidized trip to Israel so that you can build a connection. Because you can't do that from CNN. You can't. You can make your contributions to help us send our kids and other folks to Israel. You can go there yourselves for our next trip. I don't know when we're doing it, but it's coming up. You can support our Israel Partnership Program. We are making a connection to folks around the Sde Boker town in this area of Ramat HaNegev. And this rabbinic student from this new community is going to come here and speak, and we want to build a relationship. Not just talk about the conflict, but talk about our lives. We want to build a relationship. You're going to see that we are asking our congregation, everybody in our congregation, to join ARTSA, the Association of Reformed Zionists of America, to support what we're doing in this country and in Israel. Whether it's the Israel Religious Action Center or other Reformed progressive congregations within Israel. Folks, I'm sharing all of these things because it's not just, I don't want us just to say, good job, Israel. I want us to continue in a partnership, which is a relationship, which is a learning and an exploring and a visiting and getting to know family, including the family that drives us crazy, not your family, the bar mitzvah boys' family. You guys get along. That's great. We want to build these relationships. We want to understand, and it's not so easy, so it's going to take some effort. We met those people in order to provide a color, to say, how do we participate in the building of the Jewish state that's democratic and Jewish and secure and pluralistic? How do we balance all of that? So I'm going to conclude with a prayer from another teacher. Her name is Anat Hoffman. She's been involved in really important organizations. One of the things that she has taught me is that she says over and over and over again that Israel is too important just to be left up to Israelis. They need our voice too, and I believe that because we're in partnership. We're either partners or we're not. This is the prayer that she has shared. My God, Eli, in this sacred moment, give us hope for Israel and her future. Renew our wonder at the miracle of the Jewish state. In the name of the pioneers who made the deserts bloom, give us the tools to cultivate a diversity of Jewish expression in Israel. In the name of our fallen soldiers, give us courage to stand up to the words and ways of zealots, those in our own midst and those among our neighbors. In the name of Israeli inventors who have amazed the world with their innovations, help us apply the same ingenuity to finding a path to peace. In the name of all of these individuals, grant us the strength to conquer doubts and despair in Israel, replacing doubt with action, replacing despair with hope. And let us say, Amen. We invite you to rise.